sitting in bed with a bit of a minor virus.
Yes. Unusual man to describe your own virus as minor.
Well, yeah, it's all this COVID nonsense. Like every little virus that's available to get now. Anyway, but we have a podcast to talk about Chris Green. This is our 30th one.
Wow, 30. I didn't know we'd done that many.
Yes.
But yeah, Chris is a worthy one to be number 30, isn't he?
He is. Yes. He's done lots of things. We're only talking to him about his trip around bits of India. It seems very fascinating.
Yeah. It's on our round the world tour a couple of years ago. We didn't get to half the world, did we? We didn't get to India.
I think we might have flown over it or past it.
Yeah.
So we went across the Indian Ocean, which is like, I suppose, the wet bit of India.
Yeah, it's pretty wet, yeah.
Yes.
Dangerous as well.
Around India. Yeah. We could always check and find out if we did go over it.
Yeah.
But,
but talking to Chris, as you know, anyone listening will see, has made me want to go as well. So it'll have the same effect on other folk. Yeah.
Which bits do you want to go to?
The bits he went to. Because he's tested them out for us.
You want to find yourself in the Himalayas covered in snow?
No, I'm just reading a book about that, actually.
Yeah.
Rosie Thomas, it's Kashmir it's about. But, yeah, I wouldn't mind that. But I'd prefer somewhere warmer. And I don't want to ride around on a bike like Chris did.
No, not a big sort of heavy one anyway.
Yeah, he got a better one later on, didn't he? But,
Still, do you think people know that our podcasts are now available on the radio?
Oh, you should tell them.
Yes. Calder Valley Radio approached us and we now put our podcasts up on there as part of a 2-hour show.
Yeah, we have a 2-hour show from 12 to 2 on a Tuesday.
Live.
And we play one of our podcasts in the 7-second hour.
Yes, bit of music for an hour, and then one of our podcasts after the 1 o'clock news, and then local band of the week. It's all good fun.
Yeah.
So, and can you remember the web address for people to listen to us on the radio?
No.
Right.
No. What if you'd like to?
It is 3Ws.caldervalleyradio.co.uk. And if people aren't available to listen to us on Tuesday lunchtimes, click on Listen Again, and you can hear us on previous Tuesday lunchtimes.
Yes, I get very confused. But if you'd like to listen to us when we're actually on the air, that would be nice, because we could, you can send us requests and stuff.
That's true.
You can do that through Facebook.
Yeah. In the meantime, should we just get on with our chat with Chris Green?
Yeah, take it away, Chris.
So this is Dave and Viv sitting in our living room with Chris Green. Chris, you've just got back, you know this already, you've just got back from cycling around India. I presume around parts of India rather than around India itself.
Just parts of India.
Yeah. So which parts of India did you get to?
Last year, I went from Mumbai to Goa, which is straight down the coast. And
that's the west coast.
Yeah. And I thought it'd be really easy. So I went to Mumbai and found a bike shop, and they were selling sort of brand new old Indian bikes with a double crossbar, no gears, but solid as you like, metal brakes. I thought this would be brilliant. And it was brilliant in terms of it didn't break down for 6 weeks while I cycled it. However, for some of those days, I was pushing it up hills, and it was a very heavy bike to be pushing up hills. And Linda did say to me when I bought it, she said, "Are you sure you don't want gears?" That's my partner. And she proved right. So this time...
So this is the sort of sit-up and beg bike that people rode around when we were kids.
Solid as anything. Probably would have been called Rally in the old days, but now they're called Hero. And things like that.
So you have to be a hero to ride one of them.
I got huge admiration on that trip for riding this old Indian cycle. And
From local people?
yes,
Yeah.
in the 6 weeks, apart from the first day and the last day when I got to Goa, I did not see another European,
Oh.
except an Italian guy
Mhm.
who was cycling from Italy to the Philippines around the world.
Wow.
So because I'd read about this guy on Facebook,
Now that's a hero.
yes, so we stopped and had a cup of coffee together. And it was very interesting to hear his stories. He had been in such obscure places that he'd really almost had to fight people off who just wanted to look at his bike and look at him and poke him, those sorts of,
Yeah.
wow, what is this? This is this guy. And he was doing it the hard way. He was camping all the time and sleeping in temples when he couldn't camp and getting his water from filling stations when he could. So he didn't buy any plastic bottles of water, which are very, very commendable.
Mm.
But so I say the only other European that I saw in that time, and I was all prepared to keep going with that trip last year, but one of my relatives got a bit sick, so I had to rush home. So that gave me a great opportunity to start from Goa this year, and this is what I did on the 1st of January.
So
this
were you
year.
involved in any cycling groups over there, or was it just you and Linda?
I took advice from the Mumbai Cycling Association.
Right.
And one of those, because I was saying, can I buy a bike there? And I said, of course you can. There's loads of shops, bike shops. But one of them said, why don't you bring a Brompton? And I thought, you must be joking. Bring a Brompton for old Indian roads. And so last year I didn't. That's why I bought this seriously big cycle. And so this year I thought I'd be very brave. So I packed up my Brompton and put it on the plane for the first time. I'd never done that before. And people always say, oh, they'll get damaged by baggage handlers and stuff like that. It arrived in perfect condition. I packed it out with cardboard and stuff like that. And the Brompton served perfectly. I had special punch-proof tyres put on it and punch-proof inner tubes. And so I didn't even get a puncture.
So what exactly is a Brompton?
Brompton is the small, very expensive folding bike in the UK. Lots of London commuters use them because they can just fold them up, pop them on a commuter train and unfold them, chick, and it caused huge interest in India. Once I just was inside a cafe and I saw 3 guys just staring at it outside through the window, and because often people are, can I have a go? No, fine, I could have a go. I'll tell you one thing which that immediately makes me think of is it was so safe. I was talking to a man, of course, who had a bike stolen from a cafe in Todmorden when I was inside the cafe and the bicycle was right outside the cafe. And a guy rushed in once and hey, someone's stealing your bike. But by the time he'd been able to park his car, come in and tell me that, the guy had gone round the corner. But in India, I felt so safe. I was forever leaving it outside, places unlocked, and even hotels at night.
And
Yes,
did you set yourself
go
a
on.
target of so many miles each day, or did you just go off and see?
How far you can go. I would have a look at the map the previous day
Yeah.
and see
Well, you
whereabouts
didn't
I
send
might
you
get
this far
to.
today.
And sometimes I might even look up on a booking site where I might think about staying. Twice I did that and ended up arriving at these places. And because I hadn't actually booked them, there was nobody there. they were all locked up. And so, I mean, in that case, I was quite happy to go and try somewhere else.
That's fantastic.
So where did you stay then? Was it hotels? Was it hostels? Doorways?
No, they say rooms or something like that. And so sometimes it's called a hotel, sometimes it's called village rooms or homestays. And that was about it, really. I rarely paid more than 20 quid for a night because they are all almost identical Indian hotel rooms.
Really?
Then some will be more modern than others. They all have, all the ones that I've stayed in would have a fan, air conditioning, a bed, some sort of cupboard to put your clothes in, and shower. Of course, they were all en suite. But two things which may distinguish them: often, really often, these are quite ordinary hotels would never have a top sheet. They have a bottom sheet, they have a blanket, but no
right.
top sheet.
So not a duvet then, where you would
No.
have a top
So
sheet.
sometimes they might have a quilt, yeah, but still, so there would just be a quilt. It wouldn't be a top sheet. And so last time I had taken a sheet sleeping bag, and I took a sheet sleeping bag this time, and I used it quite often. The other huge difference, and this is what gross people out just a little bit, is toilet paper.
Oh, right.
They do not have toilet paper. They.
I'm
even-
hesitating to ask what they do instead.
There's always a really fast water jet
Oh,
with a little lever on to go. So you wash your bum.
So essentially, it's a bidet. Or,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, but better than a bidet because this thing is really sort of fast, and
you
it reaches
control
to
it.
the toilet. So you actually you still be squatting over the loo and wash yourself out. And
I imagine it's more eco-friendly than using paper.
and of course the waste disposal thing. There's no way they could manage the paper, but that is so standard. Now in the posh ones, which might get a few more European visitors, they might provide some, paper and a bin, but doesn't happen very often. The other huge difference, I think, between cycling in India for me and cycling in other countries where I have been is the complete hospitality. Now, people always say, "Oh, the people were so nice. The people were so nice." And there's one thing about people saying hello that drives you completely not crazy, but just tired of riding with one hand because the other hand is complete waving to people all the time and say, "Good morning, hello." I think one morning by 6:15 or 6:45, I'd already said hello to about 45 people. I was counting it, and even a "God bless you," which was a bit of a shock. But the generosity is more important than that. I've got one great photograph of a guy in a car, and he pulled up just in front of me. I'd been cycling on I'd had a cup of tea at a chai stall, which I do about 3 times a day. Just sort of stop for a breather, cup of tea. And so I'd stopped there, cycling on, and this car pulls up in front of me, let's say about 3 or 4 miles down the road. I thought, what's he doing? Then I realised what he was doing when he held my bag out of the window. My bag, which I had left in the tea stall 4 or 5 miles down the road.
Oh, how nice. Yeah.
That was similar to another morning. A scooter pulled up in front of me after I'd been cycling down the road for 2 or 3 miles, and he had a book which I deliberately left behind because I'd finished it. But this guy had looked round the room. Oh, this man's left his book. We might be reading that. And he chased me down the road to give it me back.
So you have to leave it at the next cafe.
Yes. The third incident which sort of stands out really. I went in to get on a ferry, and because the ferry is at times constrained, the ticket clerk just puts down the counter and just says, "I'm not going to serve anybody else." So there were about 10 people waiting, and we'd have to have waited for the next one. Except that the guy in front of me, who I'd been chatting to, who was the last person to be served, incidentally, he said, "Oh, come on, you bought my ticket for me."
Oh, that's
Because he could see that the guy was about to close the counter. And I had to force the price of the ferry on the guy. He would have paid for me, and I thought, no, just. And it's just that sort of consideration. It happened over and over again. People were forever stopping me as I was cycling along and said, "Oh, don't forget to see this site as you go through our village."
So I don't know. You may or may not know the answer to this question. Is this because you're a visitor to their area, or are they like that generally with anyone?
I would say I stand out because I'm an old fella.
Yeah.
I'm white,
Yeah.
and I'm driving a weird cycle. So they're scoring three points on that.
Yeah.
I mean, when people shouted "beautiful,"
Mm-hmm.
I didn't think they were talking to me. they were talking about the bike. Because some people, "Wow, nice cycle." Was another one people would shout. And that sort of thing, because it was so different.
Yeah, it's just that. I mean, Kathy found this. She was when she was late teens. She travelled around Southeast Asia, Vietnam especially, and she was saying just people were just lovely. Yeah. But she said she went into villages, and the last time they'd seen white people, it was in the 1960s, and there were Americans killing them. Yeah. And so she was like sort of unusual, and people would just take it in, and sort of, as her and a friend walked into a village, would sort of slaughter a chicken and sort of start cooking for them and things
She was
like that.
vegetarian, unfortunately.
See,
Then-
whenever you say something like that, I'm going to have another anecdote. Starts
Yeah.
on another anecdote.
Oh,
And
right.
Yeah, we
slaughter
are
of
just
chicken.
chatting away.
I did go to some cultural events called Thayam, which is
Mm.
worth researching and looking up. Thayam goes back before Hinduism, which means it's going back to at least 2,000 years. No, 1,500 years BC. You know, so
Oh, wow.
very ancient.
Yeah.
Worship of gods, also 450 different stories connected with Thayam,
Oh.
and it's mostly in Kerala. And the two events I went to started at 3 a.m. and went on till dawn.
Mm.
And I went to one of these, so I went to another one the next night, and they involved sort of fire and people being dressed up in huge outfits with major makeup, and probably having some special drinks and stuff to make them feel a bit spiritual and weird, and then just acting out various stories. But the reason I was thinking about that was about people sacrificing chickens. Was at the first one I was a bit surprised, and I stopped taking photographs when this guy pulled the head off a rooster.
Oh.
And actually, I mean, I found it quite horrific, but actually, it's obviously goes back years, and this is a sacrifice of a rooster, which is, you know, just that and the connection with the fire and stuff. It was just very. It was a, you could say, spiritual experience or strange experience. They were not messing. This was not for the tourists. There were about 3 European tourists there. There were half a dozen Indian tourists. But the other 50 or 60 people there were local villagers, and it was in the middle of nowhere. These two separate events that I went
So
to.
do they follow this religion, or is it a kind of I can't get my words, a festival
Ritual,
ritual.
cultural, religious ritual.
thing to remember it and not to lose
No,
the
it's
past?
a bit of no. I think it's people were believing in it more. I mean,
Right,
they were
yeah.
going around. People were being anointed with oil and blessed and
Right.
stuff like this.
Yeah.
And what I did find strange, and might be a little bit more tokenistic, is that I was turned on the telly. Then the next night I was in a hotel, and the regional television cameras had been at one of these events, and so had a whole load of politicians, all dressed in their white outfits, or being blessed or anointed by this person dressed in this vivid red headdress with sort of things hanging out and made up to, you know, to hell and back, really. You know, amazing.
Sounds fantastic.
It was that was amazing. And one of the temples that I went into, I felt very sort of woo when I came out. And that was about 8 o'clock in the morning, and there was fantastic music going on and chanting, and it was about 800 years old, this particular temple, and you could feel sort of that the incense had gone up in that temple for the last 800 years, and it all felt very spiritual and uplifting, you know. So,
And you don't have to be religious and believe in God or gods to feel that spirituality.
Absolutely not.
We've experienced that in like Notre Dame in Paris, for example.
But of course, India is a place of belief. A couple of things, you know, you've got Hindu majority, which is being milked by Modi for nationalist reasons, 80%. You've got 600,000 mosques in India for the 15% of people who are Muslim. You've got about 60,000 churches, so especially in Goa and Kerala, big church places, partly because of the Europeans' influence.
Yeah, Goa was a Portuguese
Exactly.
territory, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So they would have that.
And
So it's
but-
probably largely Catholic.
Yes, very much largely Catholic. Yeah, and And then in Kerala, you wouldn't believe the number of hammers and sickles everywhere, and pictures of Che Guevara. Like there's a bus.
Got one of them upstairs.
Yes, but you haven't got. It's not on the local bus waiting area, is it? You know, so and then there's a beautifully painted bus. What do you call bus waiting area? Not bus station. Bus
Waiting room.
Yeah, sort of bus. And it had Marx, Engels, and Lenin on the wall. Big pictures of them. You know, very strange. And that's Kerala, which has it's got a left coalition government now, but two of the parties in that coalition are both have communist in the name. You know? So that's very.
Yeah.
So all these strange different belief systems. Oh, I've got a great photograph of a cemetery, a communist cemetery, a very small one, but there's a fist coming out of this grave. It's great. It's fantastic. We will change the world.
Do they all rub along together, all these different beliefs?
That is what's so strange. I mean, they do well, everything's okay.
Right, okay.
But Modi has just...
Modi's the Prime
Minister of India. Yeah. He has just been inaugurated the building of a new temple. It's been being built for about the last 4 years on the site of a 400-year-old mosque in northern India.
Oh, yeah.
And that temple had 500,000 Hindu visitors on the first day. But this was featured across the entire nation, and everyone in the public sector got a half-day holiday for this particular event. So Modi is tying in his party with religion and nationalism, and it's not very nice. Given I was cycling mostly.
It's never a good thing, whatever your nationality is or your religion.
I was cycling mostly in the coastal area, which is an awful lot of poorer Muslim people who are fishermen. So I went past one place and I thought, what's that bobbing out there? And it was guys with floats, sort of, I don't know, about 100 yards out to sea. And they were diving for individual mussels, you know, and just sort of by hand, you know. And then they were swimming in with them, and they were just finishing. And they just came and had a cup of tea at the same cafe that I went to. Further along, there were some guys mending their fishing nets. And I thought, oh, and they beckoned me over. So I went over and said hello, you know. And then we had to take a selfie, and they said, "Oh, will you send it to us on Instagram?" I think, you know, this is the way things are changing. You know, oh, how nicely cultural, some fishermen. You know, and I saw some guys hand ploughing. They were pulling a plough by hand. One guy was pulling it really hard, and the other guy was steering it. I thought, okay, how quaint! Can I take your photograph? And they said, yeah, will you send it to us on Instagram? And we swapped Instagram names. You know, yeah, that's how things are changing.
It's quite nice, though, that their old ways can still continue, even though they've got the modern ways of communication and things, isn't it? You know.
I'm sure if he could afford a tractor to pull his plough,
he would one, yes.
Well, yes, I might not think it's
yes. And the other, I think, what epitomised the change in India for me was, and it lays to rest lots of stereotypes about India. I met two people on a train, a man and his son. This was in second class, sort of air-conditioned sleeper. I did them all. I did them from basic sleeper with no air conditioning to upper class chair class, which was really the business. And that cost 25 quid for 300 miles. So that was really expensive. But I got 4 meals for that.
Yeah, well, get that privatised and up the price quite a lot.
So the guy I met on the train, he was a coconut farmer. I thought, oh, how quaint, coconut farmer. In fact, there are still several million people who make their living out of coconuts, you know, lots of them. I thought, oh, still how quaint. And then just a little boy, you know, what are you, It wasn't quite this patronising, but I worked out what are you going to do when you grow up? Oh, he says I'm going to work in artificial intelligence. Coconut farmer to AI. Yeah, and that's exactly what India is about.
But it is important that we do get the idea that some of these foreign places are, Western people have always had the idea that some of these foreign places are a bit primitive, when it's never actually been true. I when I was teaching, I used to do this exercise. I'd show a bunch of students to photographs of cities, sort of tower blocks and sort of wide boulevards full of cars and things like this. And to have a guess where this is, and the last place they thought which was where it was from, was like cities in Africa, because lovely as he is, Uncle David Attenborough and others give us the impression that Africa is just animals chasing each other around the desert or the Serengeti, and we miss out. I mean, never ever criticise David Attenborough, obviously, but we do sort of miss out, the reality of life in other places.
Yeah. Did you go to many cities while you were?
Yes, because some of them are sort of on. For example, I tried to go through some of the cities because they're so big. But Bangalore, which I went through, is the sort of centre for the IT industry and a lot of the car making as well. Fourth biggest car industry in the world. You just think, what?
Yeah.
And loads and loads of people working in IT. Their IT sort of thing is going through the roof. But it was. I know. I was shocked. A bit like this, feeling old-fashioned. Indian trains, aren't they all steam locomotives? and of course, I went on one of their latest trains, and it is one of their latest trains, but they are producing 50 new of these each year to run on 50 different lines each year. So these trains are going, and so this thing was fast. About 100 miles an hour was the average speed, and they're building new lines all over the place. They're bringing 5,000 kilometres of new lines a year, or double tracking, so that the older trains don't have to sit in a siding waiting for the other train to come the other way.
And you think they can't really build a railway from London to Manchester?
It was the comparison. It was the desperate comparison.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you about the weather. What's it? Is it really, really hot? And did you survive that?
I didn't see. This is going to feel embarrassing. This is why I go. Or I may go somewhere similar, if not to India again next year. From the 1st of January till the end of February, I did not see a cloud. But virtually did not see a cloud. Sun all day, and that has its problems as well. I did go and see a doctor once. How's your health? And of course, he immediately diagnosed what was wrong with me. He said, "You've been in the sun a lot, haven't you?" Because I had these spots on my leg, which was where I hadn't covered up and put enough sunscreen on. I went through 5 tubes of sunscreen.
I was wondering about the weather because with your colouring, you might not cope that well.
So I would recommend it if the biggest fear I had was sort of getting on the plane and getting up, and after that it all became easy. And I would say to people, just go places and do stuff.
And that's good advice. So, okay, well, thanks for that, Chris Green. We perhaps should invite you back for another chat at some point, because you were involved in setting up the White Ribbon campaign against violence to women. So
yes.
Perhaps have another chat about that sometime.
And what I do now, which is called Male Allies Challenging Sexism.